Merry Christmas to one and all. I'm Cito Beltran, and this is your show, Your Agenda on Signal TV. And on today's episode, we take a look back at some of the biggest names and news we've had on the program. This is Agenda Year-End Special here on One News. The hullabaloo surrounding the Department of Tourism's campaign ad, the first barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan election in years, and the iconic Tito, Vic, and Joey joining the Kapatid Network. Let's rewind to some of the biggest news this year. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's now official. Tito, Vic, and Joey are now part of TV5. And let's get verification on that from former Senator, Kuya ng Bayan, mas kuya ko. Kung ako kuya, ito kuya ko. Okay, Tito Sen Soto, good morning sa'yo.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Cito. Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. As a matter of fact, the announcement that I'm about to make will be first made in your show, in Agenda.
Okay, sabi nga ni Joker Rino na I'm sure natatandaan mo pa, take it away.
Yes. We have decided, when I say we, I mean Tito Vic and Joey and our group, the entire production group of Itbulaga. We have entered into an agreement with the MediaQuest, the MediaQuest group. The decision was formalized last night, and we have been talking. There have been a number of offers from at least 5 television stations and companies, but we have decided because there will be other MediaQuest platforms that we will engage into. We have decided that Dabarkads will produce the content for TV5, and it will open another chapter. Sabi nga nung statement na ginawa ng MediaQuest, I was given the copy of the statement last night after we have decided to say yes.
What were they suggesting? Ano yung gusto nilang o parang pinaparamdaman nila na you felt was a political agenda?
Well, they wanted to remove bawal judgmental portion. Okay? The bawal judgmental portion is a highly rated portion. That's why we always place it at 1:45 to end at 2:30. It takes 45 minutes because the rating is high. They want to replace it. Ang ipapalit daw is a portion ng search for kasambahay. So I said, sabi namin, teka na, we had made in the Philippines before. It was okay. But then, after one season, we wanted to, after 2 or 3 years, we were going to do it again, made in the Philippines. It was a flop. Wala pang 1-2 buwan, di namin tinuloy because the advertisers did not like it. So sabi nila, hindi naman kumakagat, hindi masyadong kumagat yung una eh. Ba't mo gagawa ng parang? So di na namin ginawa. It's the same thing. Pinalitan mo lang ang pangalan. It's going to be kasambahay. And then, sabi ko, why? Mahina yan eh. And then they said, they admitted it again a few days ago, that Romy is putting up a party list, kasambahay.
I mentioned that Senator Win Gatchalian is proposing a federation of Sangguniang Kabataan units. And I don't really get the point, but who wants to take the first shot?
I totally agree with you. I cannot really comprehend why do you need a federation for that. Secondly, the way that we intend to analyze the Sangguniang Kabataan, and this is just my personal take, Cito. For me, let us abolish the Sangguniang Kabataan, really. I mean, it's a radical approach, but you know, how do you suppose to serve people if even if you expanded the voting age, or the age of those who are eligible to run for the SK up to 30 years old as the United Nations Development Program, but if you get to elect an SK of 19, 20 who spent most of their time in school, how are they supposed to basically serve the community if most of their lives are, in school for that matter?
In principle, I understood what the SK is about. For a time, I wanted to believe that they're trying to help provide the young people with opportunities for engagement. But the challenge you have for the SK in general is that you're competing with so many avenues for learning about leadership and public engagement at this point. What is the value added of SK that, for that matter, for some student organizations are not giving to them? Not to put my students on blast, because I believe I do have students who are running for SK offices in their local areas. And unfortunately, some of these students are missing requirements on me because of that. No, I'm not criticizing them for this, but I do kind of share Professor Eric's concerns that aren't you just forcing schizophrenia on these students functionally, because the kind of political culture they're imbibing in local government, as exposed as they are to the kind of clientelistic patterns we know, do kind of clash with the nominal political values we are supposedly teaching in our universities, and for that matter, other social influences.
What about transparency? Because people were like, oh, there's a new slogan. Oh, they actually made the slogan. Oh, it's finally out. How much did it cost? Who did it? All the data only started, trickling in when, when there was a fiasco already.
Yeah. Well, my involvement is in this particular case is only after the Secretary of Tourism involved us stakeholders, called for a meeting. Although she already announced before.
Yeah.
Remember that controversy again about the slogan that people saw at a bus in London that says "We give you our best" or things like that. Then people thought it was the tourism slogan. So when we asked the tourism secretary, she said, "No, definitely that has nothing to do with us. It's not our work, and if ever we're going to enhance the slogan, we are going to involve you," meaning the tourism stakeholders. She promised us that. So definitely, when she came up with this proposal from DGB, the first thing she did was call us for a meeting. All the presidents of the tourism organizations who were called, there were about 60 or more of us in that hall, and it was presented to us, and they were asked for comment.
But you said a proposal during that testing. Let's call it a testing session, a consultation. Was it very clear? Did the secretary say to the stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen, this is just a proposal? Because everything that came out in the news, in the front page, etc., is that this is the product presented by the ad agency. And so what was it? How was it presented to you?
Actually, the secretary did not say in clear terms that this is the proposal. But the fact that we were asked for comments, we got the impression that, our comments would be part of the decision-making process. That's the reason why it was not publicly launched then.
The other thing about us is that very, very personalistic ang labanan eh. Napaka-importante when you look at the issue of national security, that there are things that you understand about the military. The first thing that you have to understand is that it is a traditional organization. Its stability comes from its practices, may mga ceremonial, etc. It's a closely knit organization, largely because of the fact that it's necessary in combat to have a closely knit organization. Any destabilization there is critical. Ngayon, pag inisip natin yan, napaka-importante na ang military, napaka-importante isipin natin na dalawang bagay ang napaka-importante sa sundalo sa mga opisyal. One is rank, two, assignment. Yan dapat hindi pinakikialaman ng politiko Merong mga politiko na akala nila civilian supremacy over the military is meron silang bata-bata. If that particular situation happens, it's also still very personalistic. Bata ko yan, ako yan, meron akong influence dyan. We do not help what Malcolm Gladwell says, develop systems that will support the work. Now, that being the case, the problems that we have seen of the recent past stems out from our ignoring or our inability to really understand the importante sa kanila yung dapat makita na nire-respeto natin yung proseso ng promotion and appointments. Of course, the military, alam mo naman sito yan sa totoo lang, pagdating ng chief of staff, appointment ng chief of staff, the president can appoint even somebody so junior that he is only a full colonel or a Navy captain. He can do that. He is not prohibited from doing that if you want trust. But we also know that that can be destabilizing in the sense that it does not include, it does not promote morale. Because kung sundalo ka, napaka-importante ng rank at saka assignment mo, you look at that as in the context of your career. Ngayon mabuti na lang, ipasa na yung batas na kinakailangan meron 3-year term. Kasi naging revolving door, napaka-problematic yun sa organization. So those are the problems that we face now. But I'm glad that the President has acted already on this matter and restored, I think that, yung mga talk about coup d'etat, etc. Ano naman yun Sa akin naman
Andar.
Sabong na lang yan. Huwag na natin pagsabong yan. Wala naman. There's no such thing. I am, with my, I cannot speak for the military. I'm outside already. But my experience shows me that is baloney. The military is stable. Although there are brothers in the police na are grumbling also about certain pero hindi naman pwede hindi ayusin yan Pero it is in the how and why. Siguro napaka-importante.
Okay.
We look at the macro systems also.
Agenda's year-ender look back will return. Welcome back. You're still watching the Best of Agenda in 2023. We are looking at the major news storylines we covered this year. Let's watch this.
Kapag inano mo yung all the pluses and all the minuses, I think the pluses are still more than the minuses when we talk about RCEPs. Because
Okay.
for us, hindi natin lahat pinuproduce at hindi lahat tayo nakakapag-export.
Mhm.
We import more. May mga tinatawag tayong WTO safeguards which are still open, okay? And continue to be available for member countries, including the Philippines, in case of some trade disputes. RCEP also provides for a transitional safeguard to address this possible situation by way of suspending further reduction of customs duties or increase them should import surge under the RCEP. In other words, andyan pa rin yung mga safeguards. Ang importante lang, hindi mo, I was saying earlier, hindi mo talaga ma-divorce yung pangangailangan ng gobyerno to address the basic issues in our agricultural sector.
Yeah.
Okay? Importante yon. And meanwhile, that we are trying to improve our local production so that we can also have the ability to export, we need imports in manufacturing, imports even in agriculture, so that we have better productivity and ability to produce not only our local needs, but our ability also to export. I think whether we like it or not, the agricultural sector is here to stay, in the sense that even if we have a reduced hectareage planted on these products, the point is to improve our efficiency and productivity, so that even if we have limited amount of land, we are more than productive, we are more than efficient, so that we can have the ability to produce more for our people, and our
Okay.
reliance on imports will be much less. And even if we have to import, the cost of importation should be reasonable. And WTO, and in particular RCEP, is actually there to make sure that the trading system across borders within the membership of RCEP remains open. There is equity and fairness in trade, so that the cost of production will be more appropriate and will be more reasonable. Because at the end of the day, ang makikinabang yung mga tao.
Okay.
More production, lower prices, higher income, higher employment, and that's good for the economy.
When COMELEC, the Commission on Elections, actually had their data breach, one of the things that they asked for was, for example, your mother's maiden name. Well, that's something that banks often ask for as a identity proof. Why does the Commission on Elections need my mother's maiden name? They don't. There are a lot of other information. They might need my date of birth, so that if I was, if I was Cito Beltran, you're Cito Beltran, they can tell which one of us is, which one of us is which. But they don't need a lot of the information that they ask for. They need our address so that they can tell where we're supposed to vote, and so on. And I think this is where the Data Privacy Act, which actually the Data Privacy Act in the Philippines, I think, is really, really good. And it's patterned after the European Data Privacy Act, or what they call their GDPR. However, it's not well enforced here. And what I think we need to do, and this goes, I love this example because it goes to what we were talking about earlier, that each of us need to stand up and say no. But we need to know, just because a government entity asked for something doesn't mean we have to provide it. And so your wife did exactly what I would hope everyone would do, and that is, without being nasty or anything else, just say, you don't need that. You don't need that information for this transaction. You don't need this. You don't need this. We need to know enough and to be able to enforce the law ourselves gently. We don't have to call the PNP. We don't have to call the National Privacy Commission and so on. We just say, no, I'm not going to give you that information, and then report it to the National Privacy Commission so that they can come back and say, no, look, X agency, you don't need that, or X company, you don't need that information. But without us knowing, we can't do it.
Kaibigan ko na sila mula nung nagawa ko nito. So, hindi ko bibili. Dahil binibigay naman sa akin anywhere. Pwede kong gawin sa China, Korea, or anywhere. Sa US, pero hindi ko tinanggap dahil nga hindi ko naman sikaso. Masyadong, mahano yun eh. Time consuming para sa akin. So, to cut the story short, nabili na ng Thailander from Thailand at inimbita rin kami doon para siguro tumulong sa kanya dahil hindi yata pa marunong patakbo. So, sila ngayon ng Pero noong Miss Universe, binibigay sa akin anytime, anywhere. That mahirap kunin ang Miss Universe before ko nagawa. It will require $1 million unrefundable. Kung hindi kayo nakaintindihan, piskado yung $1 million. And we have to deposit. Nung una, parang nakakalaman na rin tasado ko, nag-deposit ako $1 million. Then, another $5 million. 6 million para lang sa kanila. 6 million naman, another 6 million, gagasusin mo sa Pilipinas. So, no problem ka ako, gagasusin mo naman yan. Hindi naman ako kilala. Worried sila, baka hindi ko gastusin. So, you have to deposit another 12 million. So, at 6 million. The total of 12 million ang dineposit ko para makuha yun.
Now, they keep, lately lumabas ho yung ABR natin that may malfunction. Yes, indeed, we admit that na August pa pala ho may malfunction yan eh. It was degraded. It took some time for parts to arrive. In fact, it's only arriving this week. But ang ginawa pa natin, kahit na may parts, umorder ho tayo ng bago. So dadating yan within 2 weeks. Kasi galing sa abroad pa eh. I think it's coming from Turkey. So it takes time for us to be able to restore the system to how it was designed.
DG people might say, grabe, napaka-importante niyan. All of those parts and backups are so necessary. Why don't you guys just have a bodega or a storeroom full of a backup or second replacement parts? Or are these things, do they cost hundreds of billions, which makes it difficult for you to purchase and put them on standby?
After the expiry of the warranty, that was in 2020, we could not engage Sumitomo Thales. They are the contractors who provided the building and the parts and the servicing of the CNS ATM. So by 2020, dahil nga merong claims and counterclaims na existing na hindi sila nababayaran ng utang. Because the cost of the CNS ATM went up to about 10.8 billion.
Billion or million?
Billion. Mahal ho talaga.
Akala ko, $100,000 lang eh. Kaya, hindi pala million, billion pala yung pyesa. Yung halaga niyan.
Yes. And we availed of the JICA loan para kung magkaroon tayo nito. And the project started way back 2010. Ang haba ho, nakatatlong administrations until finally in 2018, it was in place. Now, when the warranty was about to expire, so we were already negotiating with Sumitomo Thales for the supply support as well as the parts and maintenance and so on. However, ang sabi nila, while there are still claims and counterclaims and they haven't been paid, they could not agree to that. So finally, nung pumasok po si Secretary Bautista, as early as September, he was aware of this already. Sabi niya, let's settle the claims. So last year ho, nung September, yun ang directive niya. Na ano naman ho, because nag-concentrate tayo ang DOTR doon, because it was DOTR who procured the CNS ATM. By early this year, February of this year, itong month na to, na-settle na yan. So, now, we have engaged Sumitomo Thales, and again, now they are willing to provide us all the technical support, all the supplies, and the assistance for us to be able to get this very critical equipment running again.
Agenda will be right back. Please keep it here. Welcome back. You're still watching the Best of Agenda in 2023. We are looking at the major news storylines we covered this year. Let's watch this.
So the research was actually done in the lab, purely in the lab. We used human breast cancer cells that we cultured in the lab. And then we looked at ano ba yung we looked at the genes that should be expressed that oscillates. Dapat parang wave-like yung pattern nila if you track them from 0 hours to 48 hours. So it should oscillate, di ba? Kasi ganun po yung behavior ng what we call as circadian genes or yung clock genes. It changes with the time of day. So paiba-iba. So parang wave siya dapat. So what we found with this particular gene is that in normal breast tissue, the way that it's expressed is that it oscillates, no? So it has a circadian pattern of expression. It shifts with the time of day, no? But in advanced, highly metastatic breast cancer, you lose that oscillation. Hindi na siya nag-oscillate. So ibig sabihin, in advanced and metastatic breast cancer, the way that your circadian clock genes or your clock genes are expressed, it's already not normal. No, it's the oscillation is disrupted, and that could contribute to breast cancer. Kasi itong gene na to, what we found is that it prevents breast cancer, the growth of breast cancer cells, pag-spread ng breast cancer cells. So yun po yung isa sa mga, kaya ano siya, anti-cancer in nature po yung gene na ito. I think it's a very good study for us to try to figure out ano po ba yung incidence or yung prevalence ng, for example, in our particular interest is, for example, breast cancer, no? Among BPO workers. Wala po tayong data tungkol dyan. So dapat po siguro na it's time for us to do what we call as epidemiological studies, no? Titingnan mo kung ano ba among BPO workers na nag-shift work, ano ba yung risk nila for developing particular types of cancer. For women, breast cancer. For men, prostate cancer. So bakit ba yung dalawang yun lang yung interested kami? Kasi hormone-driven cancers po sila. Diba? Yung hormones natin, yung estrogen, testosterone, and yung pag-release po kasi ng hormones, regulated din sila, kinokontrol din sila nung light-dark cycle. So parang ganun po yung connection nila. Pero kung ano po yung incidence, kung gaano ba kadalas dun sa mga BPO workers, madami ba sa kanilang nagkaka-breast cancer or prostate cancer among men, wala po tayong data tungkol dyan. Hindi po natin masagot sa setting ng Pilipinas. So one thing that we can do. Now, yung question po ninyo, for example, yung mga security guard o yung mga lalaki naman, kung at risk ba sila sa prostate cancer, That's a question that we can actually answer here in the lab. So baka po isang possible research project yan na pwede pong i-propose sa mga nagpo-fund ng research projects namin.
Cholesterol is fat, and the body needs fat. We actually make cholesterol in our liver, but unfortunately, as we get older, things go wrong. We are unable to properly regulate it because the function or the ability of our liver to control cholesterol actually declines with age. And that's particularly evident in women because alam natin may demarcation point, menopause. Once a woman hits menopause, naubusan bigla yung estrogen, but there's still a little amount of estrogen there. Why is estrogen important? Because estrogen actually helps the liver facilitate removal of cholesterol from the bloodstream. So the liver not only makes its own cholesterol, it collects from the circulating blood. And estrogen facilitates that part. So sa babae, once they hit menopause, unting-unting nauubos na lang. I mean, like no more regular menstrual flow, but there's still some amount of lingering estrogen that totally disappears in about 5 to 10 years. So which is why that's about the time frame that we start seeing this surge of coronary events among women. About 10 years after a man. Spend your money on exercise, get a good exercise outfit, good shoes, start walking at the very minimum. In fact, all of the data is really very exciting, the data. All we really need is 30 minutes per 5 days of the week. 30 minutes, 5 days a week, or a total of 150 minutes actually reduces coronary events by up to 20% just by physical activity. So all of us have cell phones now that can track the number of steps and the amount time consumed in exercise. Go for 30 minutes every day. Or if not, you can do maybe 2.5 hours or spread it out over 3 days of the week. Just wag lang ikumpul in the weekend. It has to be spread throughout the week so that you get this constant activity, physical activity that will help to reduce cholesterol, ensure cardiovascular fitness, and actually all the data shows it actually reduces incidence of heart attacks, strokes, or even death.
Have you seen a difference among your patient clients in their attitude and in their peace? Between those who are spiritual, those who have a personal relationship with God, versus those who have been caught up in life, who are, corporate people, etc. Have you seen a difference in their attitude and acceptance of death?
Definitely. The more spiritual ones, I wouldn't even say religious, are the ones that the door is half open. I rarely see a patient naman who's like, I welcome it, except for the religious patients that I have, the nuns and the priests, right? There is a huge difference. It's a lot easier when I tell them, okay, it's time to do our forgiveness tour. What is a forgiveness tour? I ask them for a list of people that they want to talk to, they want to forgive, they want to, make peace with. It's so much easier. But let me tell you this. Believer or non-believer, at the deathbed, they will recognize that. The only difference is the believers or the spiritual people, those with personal relationship with God, recognize it earlier. But the body knows, the patient knows. So there are times when they're the ones who really initiate. Like, I want to talk to this person, I want to talk to this person. I had a patient where I had to be with her all the way from the Philippines to San Francisco just to say goodbye to families. And Sito, I have mounted what I call life celebrations, and that is the equivalent of a wake, except that we do this with the patient still alive.
I'm tempted to ask you this question. It may sound crazy, but is bad nutrition or malnutrition the curse of only poor people, or is malnutrition something that also affects middle class and maybe even the upper class?
Yes, malnutrition can affect anyone. even if you are at the middle class, or even if you are at the upper class, you can be malnourished. There are a lot of risks to these malnutrition crisis that we're having, because we actually have a double burden of malnutrition. It's not only you are obese, or you are underweight, but you can also be at the forefront of malnutrition, or at risk of malnutrition, if you are having food intake that is not complete. Say, for example, if you don't have enough fruits and vegetables on your diet, you can be malnourished in terms of your micronutrients. Because nutrition is not only the factor of your macronutrients, for your carbohydrates, of your proteins, of your fats. If you eat a lot of your fast foods, of your processed foods, you are at risk even of malnutrition, especially of your micronutrients. And we can actually plant vegetables that are rich in micronutrients. Say, for example, your petchay, okra, eggplants, lettuce, your kamote tops, saluyot, sili, calamansi, and others that can have more, that can give us more micronutrients to our diet. Also,
Okay.
sa dami rin ng tumataas ng mga bigas-bigas, no, maaari din naman po natin gawa ng pamamaraan yan, no, hindi lang po bigas ang pagmumulan ng carbohydrates natin. Po pwede nating samahan din, say for example, ng mga corn, no, yung mga corn grits, po pwede po yan. Ginagawa actually ito sa Visayas. And konti lang yung gumagawa din ito dito sa atin sa Luzon. But maaari pong gamitin, because nakita rin po sa pag-aaral na kapag nagdadagdag tayo ng mga corn, no, sa ating mga kanin. Say for example, ang last tip natin ay yung tinatawag natin na holistic health. No? Pag-usapan po natin yung holistic health sa pamamagitan ng hindi nyo kailangan ng kahit na anong pera dito. Ang kailangan po ninyo ay determinasyon. Bukod sa pagkain, ang isa pa natin kinakailangan ay ehersisyo. No? So exercise, this is libre. No? So hindi mo kailangan bumili ng mga weights, ng mga body weights. Ang kailangan mo lamang po ay ang sarili mong katawan. So, yung mga nahihirapan, yung mga gusto na hindi ako mag-exercise kasi wala akong time pumunta sa gym. You don't need to go to the gym. Ang kailangan mo lamang ay espasyo sa inyong opisinang maliit o sa iyong kwarto. Pwede po kayong mag-start ng exercise diyan. Pwede kayong mag-jumping jacks, pwede kayong mag-high knees, pwede kayong mag-push ups, curl ups. Just 30 minutes of moderate intensity exercise.
Agenda will be right back. Please keep it here. You're still watching Agenda. From navigating career paths to unlocking investment opportunities, some of our interviews this past year have been full of learnings. Let's revisit the highlights of many new things we learned in the program.
One of the things that, a lot of people actually come to me, they also have that dream of being a speaker, trainer, facilitator. And oftentimes when they do that, they ask me, where do I start? What do I do? I'm in a job right now that I don't feel fulfilled, but there's a calling, there's a tug in my heart to do something else. And one of the things that, I share with them is, number one, your whatever dream that you have has to be aligned with the gifting, talents, and abilities that you have, right? Because that's how you will enjoy that job, that career. That's how you're going to grow. As a strengths facilitator, I always tell my participants, focus on your strengths and not on your weaknesses. Why? Because that's when you can develop excellence in your career and in the platform that you choose. Second is, it doesn't mean to say that if the dream is delayed, it's considered a denial, right? If the dream is delayed, maybe it's a season for you to continuously develop yourself. Maybe it's a season for you to be humble, right? Maybe it's a season for you to learn other things that will make you become more successful and ready to take on that dream. Because two things that I believe, if the timing of God is always perfect in our lives. Why? If we force that dream to happen right away, because again, we're all impatient people, Sito, right? We want things to happen tomorrow. Oy, I dreamt about this. I want it to happen. Dapat next month. I'm already there, right? But what happens is, maybe the dream is not ready, right? Or maybe we're not ready for the dream.
Nobody should be putting religion, gender,
one by one.
Yeah.
Religion.
So religion, you should not be handling sa religion.
Okay,
Yeah.
but what about in a job where, they're a Christian or Catholic organization, or
Yeah.
they're a, Islamic organization, and they want someone who understands the faith, whatever.
Yeah, if they want that, they shouldn't be writing must be Islamic or must be a Muslim. You can't do that. What you can write instead is must have a great understanding of the Islamic faith. You put it that way, so it becomes a skill instead of something that you have no control over. Because people don't get to choose religions, right? We're born, and by the time we're a month or 2 months old, we get baptized into the Catholic faith. That's beyond people's control. So put it in such a way that you don't discriminate against the person because of something that it's not his or her doing. Make it a skill. So make it like it's a choice. So that person studied the Islamic faith, because there are people who are Christians, for example, but have extensive knowledge of other faiths because it's part of their thesis, for example, or they studied it. So put it that way. Don't just say must be Islamic or must be Muslim, because you can't do that.
What about gender?
Preferably female, preferably male is a no-no. You don't put it that way because male and female, they can do the same job. Okay, and unfortunately, and it's statistically proven that women are paid 35% less for doing the same job that men do. I was ranting about it when our Filipinas, our football team, our Philippine national football team, they made it to the World Cup. Our men's team did not. But again, in football, men are still paid more. And then there are more male engineers than there are females, and there are still companies, big companies known conglomerates that would not hire a female engineer as a property director because they have the sense that an engineering job is a typical job of a man, and you can't do that. You can't just judge somebody and her or his abilities based on his gender. You can't do that anymore. That happens a lot here because most companies refuse to pay retirement pay Because that I only see that here, because in other countries, if you go to countries like Singapore, Japan, Thailand, you see like 65, 70, 72, 73-year-old people still working. It's the exact opposite that's happening here. Nobody would hire. It's always like, okay, we can only hire until 55. Because by the time the person's 60, he will retire, we will have to pay retirement pay. So that's what happens here a lot. And I think that a lot of companies do that. It's because running a business in the Philippines is no joke, and it's the Philippines is not the easiest to do business in, and it's very expensive. The high cost of doing business in the Philippines can be blamed for that. Nobody wants to pay more, I guess. So that's why they tend to exclude particular ages, which to me is unfair, because you are practically depriving yourself of someone's wisdom and experience.
Manulife actually, Sito, conducted a research in 2021, which revealed that the pandemic and the economic challenges that came with it actually accelerated the financial adulting of many young Filipinos included in the survey. So in that survey, we noted that the young Filipinos included in the survey actually have become more aware of the consequences of being unprepared financially for the unexpected, because some of them lost their jobs and some of them experienced reduction in their household income. So the study also revealed that 77% of the millennials in the survey were looking to grow their money, and 67% are already investing. If we compare it with
Good. Sorry, go ahead.
So if we compare it with our actual experience, since March 2020, which is the onset of the pandemic, the total number of our Gen Z and Gen Y clients actually more than doubled. And today, they now account for 52% of our total client base. So this indicates that there is really an increasing number of young Filipinos that are taking the financial steps to secure their future.
It's a good idea if you studied all the techniques on how to borrow money from the bank. It's actually a very powerful. That's what the corporations do, diba? They borrow money, or they IPO their business para they get capital, and they invest it to get more cash flow. So yes, if you know the techniques, it's a very good. But if you are not so educated about it, or financially you are tight, then it's going to be risky for you. So may yes and no siya. Ito yung mga napag-uusapan natin before na paano kung wala akong pera pa, wala akong property, how can I participate in real estate? So I'm gonna give you maybe 2 or 3 ideas. So first idea, even if umuupa lang tayo, nagre-rent lang tayo, pero yung bahay na nire-rent ng magulang natin ay may extra room. Ngayon ay bodega lang or unused, go buy a paint, go clean it up, refresh it, put a nice electric fan, aircon, and it can be a room for rent. So that can be 2,500, 3,000 per month for you na passive income. But Sir Sito, more importantly than the money, alam mo naman pag mga bata pa tayo or we're starting, the lesson, the experience is far more important than the money. Kasi doon mo matututunan eh. So I really encourage everybody to go into it. Kahit na konti lang ang profit at first, because you will grow. So number 1, Sir Sito, the kwarto na may for rent. If for some reason naman yung property na tinitirahan mo ay nasa isang maingay na commercial area malapit sa palengke, and that extra room can now be rented out as a bodega. Pwede siyang storage space ng mga pansit, Lucky Me, at kung anong mga dry goods na binibenta sa market. So yun naman yung second. And yung pangatlo nga nabanggit ko nga is kung may extra space yung property natin, garage, pwede natin paupa yung parking, 2,500, 3,000, and that will give us passive income na. If you are buying a brand new house na bagong gawa at ginawa pa yan ng ibang tao na may profit, ay that's for end use na. Kasi mataas mo na binili. So if you wanna buy for investment and for profit, doon tayo bibili tayo, magba-bargain hunting tayo ng mga lumang bahay na parang undervalue, hindi masyado na price yung costing. Yan, na pwede mong i-rehab or renovate. That's the opportunity naman.
We just had a look at the biggest headlines, breakthroughs in sciences, and trends in businesses in 2023. We suggest or we invite you to watch the second part tomorrow, December 26th, of Agenda's Year-Ender Look Back. Meanwhile, Merry Christmas, one and all.